Hello and welcome to another one of D's ADD videos. Today we're going to look at some basic examples of factoring out the greatest common term. Again, quick recap on factoring. You need to look for the greatest common factor. If not, look for one of the binomial difference of two squares patterns, or trinomial is a perfect trinomial square, or do we need to do factoring by grouping? And for the greatest common factor, look for the largest common numerical or variable power and pull it out in front, and to figure out what's left, use what you had before over what you're factoring out. Okay, that's the main key to factoring out the greatest common factor. So let's look at this here. We have a few examples already done. So the first one here, remember on these example videos, try to pause them and see if you can get them right, and then watch the video. Don't just watch the video and you know, let it go in one ear and out the other. I can't believe I just said that, but yeah, sometimes when people do stuff, they're not really paying attention. So be a little bit more engaged when you're working or watching these videos. Try these examples. So what's common here? Numerically, let's see, a 2 and a 4. They're both even numbers, so I know 2 goes into both of those. And then variable-wise, there's an x to the first here and an x to the squared here. So that means that there's at least one x. There's an understood 1 there if there's nothing there. And then to figure out what's left, it's what I had before, so go off to the side. I'm going to do those calculations in a different color. I had a 2x, and I'm factoring out a 2x. So when I divide the 2, I get a 1. So that's what goes inside the parentheses, 1. Minus, then I have a 4x squared, a negative 4x squared, and a 2x. When I divide those, that cancels, leaving me a 2 on top, and there's 2 minus 1 on the exponents. Gives me x to the first left behind. So your final answer should be this. And a good way to check it is if you multiply it back through, distributing, do you get the same thing you started out with? In this case, 2x and then 4x squared. Yes, you do. So then we come over here to the next problem. We have 2 variables here. Don't let that throw you off. In either case, numerically, there's going to be a 7 common. And then here's the x to the first squared, and here's an x to the first, so there's an x to the first common. And then same scenario here, but vice versa. So 7xy is what I'm taking out. So to figure out what's left, just go off to the side. Eventually you'll be able to do this in your head, but if you're just getting started out, just do it to the side. It doesn't matter. Better that you're right than quick. So that goes in there twice. We're left with the x up here, and no y's. The y's cancel out. So all you're left with is a 2x here. And then if we did the same thing for the second expression, we have 7xy squared over 7xy. You can see the 7x's cancel and one of the y's cancel, and you're left with it was a negative sign, I forgot the negative sign, so minus y. Okay, again, you could distribute to check. 14x squared y minus 7xy squared, so yes, that is correct. So here's a trinomial expression. The trinomial has 3 even numbers, so it's a safe bet to say that 2 is common to all of them, and the largest power of x that's common to all of them is an x. So here you'll be left with, let's see, 2x cubed over 2x. The 2's cancel. X cancels, leaving me an x squared up top. And then we have a negative 6x, so that equals x squared. Negative 6x squared over 2x. That would cancel, cancel, cancel. Negative 3x. And then finally, we have a 4x over a 2x, which cancels and gives me a 2. So if we were to plug in your answer, you would get at x squared minus 3x plus 2. So here is your final answer. Now technically, since we're just doing factoring out the greatest common term, we're done. But what should happen is you should check to see if this trinomial has any factors. And if you take the time to watch the factoring by grouping video, the factors of positive 2 that add up to a negative 3 would be negative 1 and negative 2. They multiply to give you a positive 2, but add up to give you a negative 3. So then you would break up that middle term into those two terms. Okay, and what's common to the first two? There's an x common to the first two, and you're left with x minus 2, and then there's a negative 1 common to those two. You see how the x minus 2's are the same. You factor that out, and you're left with the things that are in front of those parentheses. So in this case, you're left with this x over here and this minus 1. So it would be times, wrong color, times x minus 1. And then that 2x would come out. So technically, this should be your fully factored answer. Those of you that are on point already saw that. Good job to you. You're well on your way to understanding factoring. But this video is, again, factoring out the greatest common term, so you just factor out that 2x and you're good to go. All right. This was just a quick side note. There's a whole video dedicated to that process. A lot of you probably saw that the factors of 2 were negative 1 and negative 2, or I'm sorry, yeah, x minus 1 and x minus 2. And you probably just could go directly to the factored form. But this factoring by grouping method is very beneficial because there are some scenarios in which they're really difficult to just guess those numbers. So I highly recommend you learn factoring by grouping. Okay, last example. This one here, we have a 3 common everywhere, an a to the first power, and a b to the first power as well. And then to factor it out, once we go off to the side, we have a 9a squared b cubed over a 3ab. That cancels, leaving me a 3. That cancels, leaving me an a. That cancels, leaving me a b squared. So that's going to be a 3. Oops. I guess we should keep the same colored theme there. 3ab squared. And then for the next one, we have a minus 3a to the 5th b. So for 3ab, the 3 and the b cancel, and one of the a's cancels, leaving me, no 3 there, and no orange color again, leaving me a minus a to the 4th. And then the last expression, we're going to deal with the yellow. So then here we have over 3ab, cancel 9. I promise you that's a 9. And the a's go by, and then we have a b to the 4th. So that final answer should look like this, plus 9, b to the 4th. And you can test to see if you distribute back through it, if you get the same answer. And there's no trinomial factoring going on here. Okay, so that was a basic set of problems on factoring out the greatest common factor. Now don't forget, sometimes your trinomial that's left, when you do so, after you factor out the greatest common factor, sometimes this sucker can be factored further. Okay, so make sure you check out the factoring by grouping video. And most importantly, make sure you practice, practice, practice. Hope I've cleared up any confusion that you might have. Check out the other example videos. Thank you and have a nice day.